Hey everyone, it's Carol Foderick from the Carol Foderick Real Estate Group. We are here with episode 8 of The Best Thing About Real Estate Is. And today we are going to be talking about open house fails. So from open house to horror house. And I feel like this is a topic that clients really love to hear, like the behind the scenes stories. Like for some reason, people love to hear about how our jobs and our lives sometimes go disastrously wrong. And there are few opportunities for things to go off the rails as quickly as at an open house. Certainly, I've got lots of stories to share. You're both industry veterans. Can't wait to hear some of your horrible, horrible things that have happened to you at an open house. So,
Sorry, before we start, I just want to say two things. One is that our coffee now is a little bit stronger, if you know what I
love
mean.
it. Second episode filming, we're always like a little bit. It's 5
Later
o'clock
in
somewhere.
it's later
Scott.
in the day. So
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
But also just a question about whether or not we even think, what is the role of an open house in the current real estate landscape?
Okay, so
do they serve any purpose? Like really, like
that is a great question. And so maybe and Dushan, I want to hear your opinion on this, but let's take a step back. Like the role of open houses when it started way back in the day, it was before what we consider the modern MLS. So 20 years ago, just to give everyone context, 20 years ago when the internet was adopted by the real estate industry, we had the ability to not only post pictures of homes, but pictures of the interior of homes. Prior to that, if there was a home for sale and you wanted to advertise it as a real estate professional, you put an ad in the local paper or the citywide paper, and it had brief descriptors. If you were a big spender, maybe it had a black and white picture of what the house looked like, but you literally paid per character. So it was expensive to advertise that way. And so you'd host an open house to get people out to see what the interior looked like. So I would agree with you to some extent, Scott. Like, what role does an open house play when a buyer now has access to just huge amounts of digital information? They've done the virtual tour walkthrough, they've done the listing commercial, they've looked at the digital floor plans, they've done 3D renderings of all the rooms. Sometimes we're even doing like the virtual walkthroughs where you put on like your virtual glasses and you do walkthroughs of the home. Do you think, Dushan, that open houses have a place in today's marketplace?
Yeah, of course. I'm a big proponent of running open houses for a couple of reasons. I think that one thing you're marketing the house by doing the open house. You're doing it on a weekend when most people work 9 to 5 during the week. It's tough to get out. If they do a showing, it's going to be late in the day after work during, when they're tired during weekday. It's going to be maybe dark outside if it's, this time of the year. They're not going to see the place properly. The lights, the natural light, it's not there. So you're giving, aside from doing your job as a listing agent and marketing the property.
Yeah, it's a tool in our toolbox, right? To be able to bring people through the door.
You're giving, like a solid, like at least 4 hours. It's typically more than, combined on if you're doing Saturday and Sunday. So you're looking at like, an average 5 hours of extra exposure to the listing. You're doing it when people are on a weekend, when they're available to come and view it. You're doing it when it's nice and bright out. So giving people some flexibility that might not be able to see it during the week.
So you love an open house.
I do.
You love marketing through open houses.
There's value. To that point, I think most of the people that come to the open house,
they've looked at it online already. Like they've done their research.
They go online, they see that there's an open house, and then they come to it. As great as our photography is, and what you can see online, whether it's video tours, 3D renderings, floor plans, there's definitely a need for, you're not going to buy
experiential.
A house.
You need to
come and see, you need to feel the space, you need to see what the place looks like physically, and get a vibe of the property. So
if you're listing a property, you are strongly encouraging an open house as a means to, add market exposure to it. Scott, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this because there is a whole other side to open houses too. I often discuss with clients, it can sometimes undermine real showing. So if there's an open house booked for the weekend, there is a thought that you could have people that just say, instead of booking, I'll just go to the open house on the weekend, and maybe they make it and maybe they don't. What's your thought, Scott? Like, are open houses always the right marketing tool for every listing?
I think I definitely would be more on the side of open houses benefit us as agents much more than they do a seller.
Mm.
I really don't believe that having an open house on a weekend really has any impact on the eventual sale of the
house?
property. To your point, if someone wants to see it, they'll
They're
make an
booking
appointment
they're
and come
calling.
see it. As an agent too, potentially a better lead capture if someone doesn't just wander through an open house and give you a bogus sign. And if they actually have to contact you and set up a time, then, there's more of a chance to
They're
vet
actually
them and
converting
forge a
into a buyer for
connection.
the property. Yep.
And I think I remember proof of this was I used to write a lot of blogs. And then I remember back in the day during the sort of pandemic.
What's a blog? Do people still do blogs? I know what it is, but are we still doing blogs? I think they're vlogs now. They're videos.
They're probably more vlogs now.
But like, who is reading their blog? Who is reading your blog post? Now we're going off on a tangent. Like blogs, are they? Now they're vlogs.
Yeah, because you don't actually have to
Okay,
know how to write.
Wrote a blog.
So if you do a blog, you have to know how to write.
Okay.
But I did one about
open houses.
It was titled "The Death of the Open House," and basically the premise was that like the pandemic killed open houses,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
houses were selling for record prices without open houses. So it was saying like, what's the point of them?
Yeah.
And I just remember that's the most response I ever got, and it was primarily from other real estate agents being like, "Fuck you, man! Don't say that. Like, we want open houses." Like,
it is.
I just felt like it was very much more important to the agent to be able to do the open house than the actual seller.
Yeah,
you don't just the open house signs alone. You don't think we get some traction from just having? I know neighborhoods are different, but just having the open house out and people that live in the area that want somebody else that they know to move into the area. I get a lot of that. It's like, they'll even come to my open house neighbors, right? Like people that live in the street or around, they'll come and kind of check out the place, the property on behalf of their friends or family that they want to move into this, great neighborhood that they're living in. But, so I find the signs, like the open house signs,
it certainly heightens awareness about the listing, but I would question, like, you're right. Like, I think there's a misconception among sellers that, if you host an open house and you get, so what's an average open house? I want to be clear. If you're priced way below market value, offer holdback, you can end up with a circus, which isn't always beneficial to the seller because sure, you're getting 28, 35 groups through over 2 days, but that doesn't give you the opportunity for meaningful connection. Like, you're not really selling the house. They're walking through the house with, literally dozens of other people at the same time. So there's that, but it can add exposure. But I think that the other side of it is that sellers are under the misconception that if 50 people come through their houses, that there's going to be 50 people. What I always remind people that it's like, if you get 1 out of 100 visitors at an open house that end up actually buying that house, that's a bit of an anomaly. Like, the conversion, they may be real buyers, they may be interested, but not necessarily in that house at that time. Often buyers will do it to sort of build a frame of reference on which they're going to, make a good decision later on. But are the more serious buyers coming through on booked appointments? I think the short
I would
answer
argue
is
yes.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've all sat open houses. I really want to get into this because people love to see us, have epic meltdowns. In fact, the internet is full of memes about real estate agents, freaking out about things. True story from open house fails. So is there an open house in your career that sticks out in your mind of just being like, this 2 hours, I need this to be over. This has gone really bad. I'll share one for me. And actually 2 stick out in my mind. When I say open house, there's 2 that stick out in my mind. The first one is once I had an open house, and I remember because it was a 2.5 story house in the Junction, older house, so plaster and lath walls and ceilings. Did a walk through the house on my way, setting the house up, turning on all the lights, making sure beds were made, that sort of thing. Went downstairs. Buyers come in, they went upstairs and they're like, are you aware of what's going on in the 3rd floor bedroom? And I'm like, no, please, like, let's go up and look. A raccoon had tunneled through the ceiling and was hiding under the bed. So not only we talk about having to deal with pets as real estate agents, like the cat that escapes, the dog that's in the backyard, whatever. No, I had to wrangle a raccoon out of a 3rd floor window onto the roof because it had chosen the exact 2 to 4 Saturday period that I had also scheduled an open house to decide to tunnel for its freedom through the roof into the 3rd floor bedroom. So that sticks out in my mind. Do you have, Dushan, like you've got an open house story where like this is not going well?
I was thinking you should have used one of the tools out of my toolkit, which is a little battery operated leaf blower. That's what I would have.
Can you hustle a raccoon along with a leaf blower? What?
Sure, yeah.
Do you carry a leaf blower around? That's the bigger question here.
Yeah,
I think.
It was tons of times you show up and it's like, the porch covered in, I don't know, leaves or I just carry it in the back.
Wow, I'm impressed. Have you ever blown leaves off of a porch at an open house? I can't say I've ever done that.
Blown leaves off? No. But I don't do woodworking either. I'm not.
When my neighbors sold their house,
I'm not a.
So you're right. Maybe this is like just some agents. When my neighbors sold their house, it had rained the day before, and he got out there with one of those like giant like floor squeegees that you see them cleaning the floors at Costco with, and like squeegeed the puddles off of the street. And that was like next level commitment. Are you doing that for your client? Or are you only doing that because it's your own $3 million house for sale? I don't know. Probably you're not offering that to all of your clients, but certainly people do take the open house prep pretty.
I just used it last weekend. It was like the light snow and people were trudging in and leaving all this, like the puddles off their shoes. And I just with a leaf blower.
So you would have hustled the raccoon out with a leaf blower. Okay. But is there an open house story that you remember where things just went horribly? Which would have made a really
funny raccoon selfie with like the air blowing in the face.
Raccoons are highly unpredictable. Ask me how I know.
So let me back it up to like one of my biggest fears is being late to an open house. And with the, Toronto's traffic, that's always a concern. So, you want to be early. I'd like to be early, but there's been a few really close calls. And when it rains, it pours, as they say. So I think probably one of my like worst ones was, I was cutting it, I cut it really close. Like I was there, like 5 to 2. I got stuck in traffic really bad. Luckily there was, no people were waiting in a queue.
Waiting to go in.
But still, like you're sitting there kind of, chewing your nails in the car, thinking I'm going to be late for my open house. I think at this, it kind of everything that could go wrong went wrong. So yeah, somebody came in. It's a big dog neighborhood. So
I love where this is going to go. Do people? Is it appropriate to bring a dog into an open house, Dushan? If someone shows up with a dog, be like, "Hey, can I just bring my dog in real quick?"
Yeah. So that was the
issue.
No, they were nice enough to. So they brought their dog. It was some sort of a poodle, like a big one, doodle, whatever they're called. And so it was a couple, and then one of them went in, and one of them stayed with a dog in a porch, and then they're like, "Oh, come inside and check this out." And they left the dog on a porch, and this thing started like as soon as the other person went in, and this thing started. So there was other people in the house, obviously. It started whining so loudly, and it was like right there at the entrance. It was like, like doing this crazy whining noise, and they like neither. I'm like, yeah, we'll come back. I'm like, guys,
all right. So you want to because you believe that these might be qualified buyers that are interested in the house. So do you go out and like cuddle the dog? Like, how do you solve that?
For a bit, I did, but like I have people in the house.
There's people in the house.
I can't just be like on a porch petting this poor dog, right? I'm like, okay, it's still like whining because I'm not the dog's owner.
It's probably because you made it so comfortable. You had blown off the snow off the porch, and it was
I should have used the leaf blower and the dog. So yeah, and then I think the owners decided to just pop into the open house,
and they're like, "Why is your dog tied up on my porch?"
Best advice. No, they didn't care. They didn't care so much with the dog, but they came in and they're just like, "Yeah, can we like help out?" And started giving like unsolicited comments on the place. So I'm like, "Oh, this is just great." And you kind of have to play. You have to be.
Oh, I'm going to come back to
nice enough and be like,
we're
okay,
going to talk
guys,
about who comes to open houses, the type of people that come to open houses. We're going to come back. So the dog on the porch.
Dog on a porch. Yeah, there's a million of these stories, but
did you ever have like a 5-year-old throw up on a Persian rug? Because that happened to me.
No.
Yeah, that happened to me. So this wasn't like a rug like you could just, throw it into the washing machine and let the homeowners know that, hey, sorry, someone threw up on your bath mat, as gross as that is, but I've rectified it. No, it was like a 9 by 12 like Persian rug that needed to be cleaned by a special company. And yeah, that was fun.
I also
don't bring your kids to open houses. That's the moral. Or maybe we'll come back to that.
Yeah, the kids can be fun. It can also be pretty distracting. as they run around the house and just start opening things up and playing with things. It's like, no, don't touch, don't touch that. But I had a really cute, like, positive experience with people. So I hosted an open house. It's like 2 months ago. And this family came in with kids, and there was a cat or 2 cats in the house. Of course, I let one of the cats out. I have no idea what his cat is. It's December. It's freezing.
Oh, you found the cat after the fact.
Well, the cat's missing, and then these really like cute little kids come in, and they're kind of rambunctious, starting to like look into stuff. I'm like, guys, I lost a cat, and they live up to like their neighbors. They know the cat. I'm like, listen, you gotta help me track down this cat.
That's like basically an express pass to get fired by your seller clients. Like losing their cat is like that's hardcore. That would haunt my nightmares.
So it actually worked out really great because they focused on finding the cat. That was their mission. So it was just 2 little cute, like, I don't know, 4 and 5-year-old kids, or 5
Was the
and
cat
6-year-old.
lost in the house, or the cat got outside?
It was
lost?
outside. It was
Oh, my
somewhere. And so it turned into like a cat hunting exercise for them, which at least kept them away from the house and just opening up everything they could get their hands on. So it can work out.
It can work out. So you can have positive and negative. Scott, you have a negative, like your open house from hell, where you're this can't end soon
I always
enough.
remember this one. It was fairly early in my career. We were selling a bungalow on like Warden Avenue, like basically Warden and Eglinton. And I was part of a team. So it wasn't my listing, but I was assigned the open house. And they just said to me, there's this one bedroom or room in the basement. Just make sure that it stays locked. That's
like you can't go into it. You can't see it.
Just make sure it's locked. So, and again, I'm pretty new in my career. So I get there and I go down, I check, like the door's locked. So it's like, okay, all good. Open house started maybe about an hour or so in. I'm like, I just go down and check the basement. It had been pretty busy too, like quite a few people coming through because, we priced it pretty. So someone had somehow
figured out how to open it.
The lock, figured out because they wanted to see what was in there. And it turns out in that room, it was basically like, there was like this big camera and bottles of lube and vibe. So it was like, they were definitely filming.
You showed the porn house.
They were filming porno for sure in this room. And for the past hour in a busy open house, I don't know when this door was open, but like P. Diddy would have loved this room. So this would have been his house.
Porn houses need buyers too. That's the truth.
So that was early on. And then
wow.
I had another one where it didn't actually happen. Well, it happened during the open house, but we got a note. We did the open house, and then there was a message that someone's vibrator had gone missing from. So it was my job to like follow up with everyone that had been there. Been like, did anybody happen
to? Do you have like the owner of Jilly's in your database or something? Only the EastEnders will know what that is. But it's like, what was that other one up on Dundas and Parliament? That one, what was it called?
It was Caddies.
I don't know why you're looking at me.
Dushan has no idea what we're talking about.
Fillmore's?
Fillmore's. Oh, see, you were top of mind on that one. Okay,
that's still there. Fillmore's is
still there. Okay, I won't ask how you know. So
that makes
discussion for later.
That makes my sexy lingerie story very vanilla compared to this.
We're going to unpack that another time. I want to talk about who shows up at open houses. So I always remind people that, when I'm sitting with a seller and they do opt for an open house, and it's a service we offer if they want that exposure, to your point, Dushan, it's certainly something I'm happy to do it. I for most sellers, they want to be sure that that there is really no stone left unturned. So in the, abstract possibility that somebody who is totally unaware of the house before does happen to drive by it and walks in and happens to have $1.5 million, they're going to buy it. So I always offer open houses to our clients, but I do kind of caveat to say, we're going to get a mixed bag. Not everybody that walks through this open house is going to be a serious buyer. Let's talk for a minute about who shows up at open houses. So you've got your usual cast of characters. I always refer them as a Sunday afternoon pot roasters. So it's Sunday, you put a pot roast in the oven, you've got 3 to 5 hours to kill before dinner. And you decide to do the tour of the neighborhood. So your tour, and I remember when I worked in Etobicoke, there was one woman who would come into every single open house I think I ever sat for a 3-year period. And of course she would say, oh, I'm just looking at all my options. But really, she was just curious and she wanted to just see how other people lived. So we've got the Sunday afternoon pot roast. Who are your usual cast of characters that show up in the open house? You get the neighbors. Let's talk about the neighbors.
Yeah, there's definitely, kind of nosy neighbors that come in. And it's funny, some of them are just flat out honest about it. And like, yeah, I just wanted to see.
Always wondered what the house
yeah.
looked like inside.
Or,
Oh,
you know,
after
they'll have some like, oh,
renovations,
I know that.
they'll-
Yeah, the renos.
yeah,
right?
after
That's
renos, they'll
a
want
great-
to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to see how the, you know, the renos and, or, you know, they'll have some sort of, or some of them just don't. They'll like come in and, you know, you know, I live on the street. I just want to see how they live.
Isn't it funny how like at first they'll pretend to not be a neighbor and they'll pretend to be like a serious buyer and they'll fill out, you know, the sign-in form, and then another neighbor will come in and out them totally. They're like, "Oh, John, how are
Yeah.
you? Oh, look, I saw your flowers are doing really well." Like, and then they're a little embarrassed and then they just embrace it. So you get the nosy neighbors for sure.
I have this, the dads are the worst. When I said that, like,
Oh, the
we
dads of the buyers. Let's talk about
dads are
that.
the in-laws, right? So like the,
Okay, so these people have
we-
seen the house already. They've the kids have been through the house. And I say kids, you know, whatever, the buyers of the house,
The
and they want to
40-year-old
bring, you know, family members through for a second opinion before they offer on it. And so the dads show up.
Yeah, so-
the aunties show up. Let's talk about that. Do you have experience with that, Scott? Like you get like
I think, yeah, there's two ways where that can be really frustrating. One is if the parents don't live in Toronto, so
they don't
you
have
know,
context.
they
so-
live an hour and a half outside of the city, and they said, "Oh, that piece of land, a property like this would cost X where we live," and
yeah.
you're going to pay.
So
You're going to pay
no local
1.5.
context.
So you know, first of all,
you should move back to Brockville
They-
and like live next to us.
they you know make them double, you know, question
Second guess,
themselves
yeah.
and like
Yeah.
the confidence to make an offer that can work, or the ones that think they're, you know, pseudo home inspectors, so they're
Yeah.
down there checking for everything, and you know, even though a home inspection may have been done by someone we know that's really good,
It's a
you know,
certified home
this person
inspector who's
thinks
licensed and insured. Yeah.
somehow they know more. And then
But do you find that, I mean, and we talk about this often, you know, with showings, like bring everybody to a showing that is going to have a hand in the decision-making process or on whose, you know, opinion you're going to rely before making a decision, because they need to have the same context that you do as a buyer. But I think it comes from a place of love. Like I genuinely think sometimes when like a buyer's family member shows up and starts picking apart a house, that they're doing it because they don't want, you know, the family member to make a misstep, but it can actually be really detrimental because they haven't been on the home buying process along with the you know, with the buyer, and so they don't have the appropriate context to understand, you know, what's normal for that neighborhood, what's good, what's bad, has it been professionally inspected already? Like it can definitely cast shadows. But yeah, so what do you do when the in-laws show up at the open house?
I mean, I find that can work both ways. I mean, obviously, if they want to bring them, you have to be nice and welcome them. I find more, especially with first-time home buyers, that they probably are getting a little bit of financial assistance from parents. So to me, I've noticed that definitely more in the last few years than in the earlier part of my career. So it's kind of that balancing act where, you know, you need to listen to them, but ultimately, you know, you're servicing your own clients. So
we talk about this a lot at the office at our meetings about the kind of largest intergenerational transfer of wealth that's taking place right now. So I get it, totally justifiable and understood that the, you know, the parents or the in-laws, whoever, are going to be there because they're likely helping out with the down payment or in some sort of a, you know, helping out in a financial aspect of purchasing the home. But I'm gonna coin a phrase out of this, like the deal killer dads. It's gonna
Deal
be like
killer
an
dads,
acronym,
yeah.
Where, you know, like you get a couple that's, you know, like looking, you know, and then either like they'll show up the next day or they'll show up late, like the in-laws or like the parents, or the grandparents, and they'll just rip apart
All right,
the
I am
house,
going
right?
to tell you guys a story which you will appreciate, and I'm hoping that this client listens to it because she's a one of my oldest, longest clients, and she'll hear the story, and I think she'll recognize herself and her dad. So, clients of mine bought and sold many times. Dad is a builder in Etobicoke, so knows what he's talking about. He's not just speculating; he actually knows what he's looking at. Part of their strategy for shopping for a house would be find one that we really like, go back to the open house. And this was more than 10 years ago. So, you know, at a time when, you know, open houses were busy, usually there's only one open house weekend because there's an offer holdback. So they're going to be, you know, a lot of people
if
in
it
the
even
house.
makes it to the open house.
Even if it makes it. So they would find a house that they love, They'd go back in for a second showing during the open house. They'd bring dad. Dad was pretty knowledgeable about what he was talking about. Dad would literally make loud comments about things he was concerned about. So he'd be like, we'd be standing around in the living room. What do you think? You know what? Great bones, guys. Like, this would be a really great home for your family. It's just too bad about all the black mold in the basement, isn't it? And he's like, I don't want to tell you guys because, you're smart enough to make your own decisions, but you can read on the internet, how dangerous that could be for your family. And I just want to make sure you're my kids and I love you. So they did this several times and you could see everybody else. It was like a room clearer. Like literally it was like, everybody would just get ashen and run out of the house. And so it was marginally effective. Like eventually this did happen and they were able to successfully, buy a house. Probably dad, knocked out a couple of offers for them. We can talk about the ethics of that and all of that, but he was successful. Let me tell you something, much less fun when Deal Killer Dad, same guy, shows up on the other side, because I had a listing in Etobicoke and I remember it because it was this super cute little wood bungalow in Mimico, and came in, walked in. Hey, Carol, how are you? Great to see you. And I knew his son was shopping for a house, early stages shopping for a house. He had seen it already earlier in the week with me. Dad shows up, room full of people, and he's like, yep, these little wood bungalows, so much charm, gingerbreading is great, but man, they sure do go up like a tinderbox in a fire. And I was like, Deal Killer Dad. So I love it.
I'm gonna trademark this, Deal Killer Dad.
I love it. So who else shows it up? So we've got our nosy neighbors, we've got the Deal Killer families who come from a place of love but can be challenging. Scott, let's talk about the family who wants to do a renovation, who is just there to like see what the house looks like without the walls up. They're measuring the countertops. It's the home tour to see what renos they could do to their house.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see that. And you said you had someone in the West End where you saw that. I had that in the East End as well. I would see the same person
over and
every
over
weekend for 3 or 4 years, and for me it was different. They'd always forget, like they were trying to keep up the ruse that they were.
But they had met you 6 times already.
So,
yeah.
But anyways, so you're saying, yeah, I mean, you see the people that are just looking for the reno ideas all the time.
Just curious, generally.
Some of them will even be as bold as to say to you, like, could you find out for me? Like, even though they have no intention of doing anything in real estate, but, could you find out the floors they used? And could you find out the paint colors?
Yeah.
And like, they actually put you on a fact-finding mission to let them know the materials that were used. So
yeah, that's
definitely all part of an afternoon.
You get the renovation, and then so how do you identify the real buyer? So a real buyer comes into your open house. As an agent, how are you identifying somebody who's actually there to see the house? I'll say point blank, like, were you just driving by today? Or, and listen, the neighbors, it's an open house. They have the right to come in, the looky-loos. It's part of the show, right? But how do you identify somebody who's actually there to see the house so that you can be sure that you can give them the best service and have the highest chances of converting them into a buyer, or at least giving them the information that they need to go back to their agent and say, we saw a great house, we want to buy it?
I find like the real serious people tend to be more quiet at first. They're they come in and, they're focused.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll come back to that. Yeah.
Like they want to look around. And then, if they give you some engagement at the end with questions that, are meaningful questions about the house, to me, that's how I find they're more quiet to start. And then, they'll talk more at the end if it's something that's interesting.
How do you weed out like the looky-loos from the real buyers?
You can tell. I'd say the looky-loos.
Looky-loos.
They'll come in usually by themselves.
I didn't coin that name, the looky-loser. But yeah, you're
That's
right.
a Diana Koska phrase, isn't it?
I don't know. Who's Diana Koska?
Keller? What? You don't?
No, I don't know. I'm the worst Keller Williams agent in the world, apparently. So looky-loos, I think, is like.
She probably didn't coin it, but she
uses it a lot
all the time. Okay. Yeah.
They'll usually come in by themselves, right? Like you'll get.
They're like driving to the grocery store and they just pop in. Yeah.
It's probably like the husband going like, oh, check out that open house. And the wife's like, oh, I'm not wasting my time. Like, go.
Or they're going somewhere else and they happen to see it and they stopped in.
Right. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's always a bad thing to have like the neighbors come in. It's funny. It reminds me of a story. So I was hosting an open house in Oakville, and this Portuguese guy kept coming in, and I guess he was a contractor. He used to he was looking to flip it, or he used to flip them, but now as we kind of chatted about before we started this session, we talked about how kind of the builders it's tough. The margins are very tough for builders to make in this market, given all the regulation that's come out and the taxes.
Taxation. Yeah.
So, but he kept coming back, right? And then I don't know if he was trying to drive the price down, and he's like, nobody will buy this house. I'm like, why not? He's like, have you seen the people here? It's all Chinese and Indians. I'm like, okay. The house is on a T. I'm like, what? So the house sat on if you think of a letter T, it sat on the very kind of middle top of the T.
Yeah, that's
right?
for feng shui buyers. That's a big
Right.
deal because of the way that the street position.
It's true. A lot of neighborhood is Chinese and Indian homeowners. And then,
who, to be clear, do have there are certain cultural elements that they look for in houses that have to do with the Chinese. It's feng shui, but there are certain characteristics that they're looking at from a property layout or a lot perspective that people that don't follow the same things wouldn't appreciate.
Yeah, so it was.
But he was trying to use it to say, like, to negotiate against you, to be like, nobody else is going to buy this except for me.
He was trying to kind of drive the price down, but it was a learning moment for, like, I had no idea. It's like, well, the Chinese will think that the money, because it sits on a T, just bad.
The money goes out the front door. Yeah, you do.
Money goes out the front door. But then, like, the Indian people that came in, they thought the staircase, it wasn't the fact that it was sitting on a T, but the staircase, that kind of this massive staircase that led to the front door, that meant money was leaving the house, and you could never prosper living in a house.
So you get the guy who's there to educate you on all the reasons why the house isn't saleable. That's something that you experienced.
That's interesting. So I kind of looked into it, and it was, something I didn't know. So it was a good lesson for me.
It sounds like he had some facts to, support it. And, in terms of the way that the house presented, I can tell you the opposite of that. So I had a bungalow, and the next door neighbors wanted to buy it. And the house had been, its original condition, 60 years old. The house was in rough shape, but beautiful ravine shaped lot. The next door neighbors wanted to buy it for their kids. They didn't want to pay what the list price was, which we're all going to laugh at. At that time, it was $550. And it was probably on the high side of market value. It's laughable now because the house today is worth double that. But at that time, it was $550. They wanted to pay $400 for it, not a penny more. Not because they didn't see value. They just couldn't afford to pay more than that. So their position was, we are going to sit outside this house, and every time somebody comes to an open house or shows up to show the house, we are going to trash talk the house to anybody that will listen.
I've had variations on that.
So yeah, so this happens a lot.
Yeah.
So this couple sat outside, and every single time, to the point where we needed to get the lawyer to send a letter to basically a cease and desist, like, you can't do this anymore. They were successful in talking a lot of people out of the house. Who they were not successful in talking out of the house was a builder who was like, I don't care what condition the house is in. If it's that bad, no problem. I'm just going to bulldoze the entire thing. And so they ended up with their mid-century Scarborough bungalow right next to a house, which was probably 4,000 square feet on the rebuild. And the only reason that loomed over their house, like the Taj Mahal. And the only reason that happened is that they talked every single end user who wanted to buy the house, live in it, do modest renovations. They scared every single buyer away, and they ended up on the negative side of that. And then furthermore, just to add insult to injury, as the builder was going through the process of the building permits, found out that the neighbor's garage had been built 10 inches over the property line, and they had to go through a huge legal issue to basically enter into an encroachment agreement, and he was awarded financial compensation for that. So they really screwed themselves. So you've got to be careful, right? When you're going to discourage somebody from going into an open house. So, all right. So we've got like serious buyers that come in. We've got the deal killer parents. We've got the looky-loos. Let's talk about just the weirdos. Like there are some people that just opportunity to make conversation with somebody. How do you deal with that in a professional setting? Like somebody that comes in, you're not really sure why they're there. They're not an interested buyer. They're engaging in long conversations with you, often have nothing to do about real estate. How do you get someone out of an open house when they are definitely not there for the right reasons?
Leaf blower.
The leaf blower. Be like, there's a raccoon loose somewhere in here. I hope he doesn't find you. Have you had that, Scott?
I mean, I tend to take like maybe a different. Sometimes I think people are just they're just lonely, you know, they just want to talk to someone, or they just want some sort of human connection. I honestly feel that sometimes, like, so, you know, it's kind of striking that balance between, you know, giving someone a little bit of time, but you're also there
To sell the
doing your
house,
job to try to
doing your
sell the
job.
house. So you're
Yeah.
making sure that you're, you know, I just find telling, like, maybe being a little bit like, you know, it's been great chatting.
Time to go.
You know,
Yeah.
here's my card if you want to connect after, but you know, I got to do my job.
Yeah. Be careful, because then they will connect after, and then you're having coffee with people. The next thing you know, you're
Well.
taking them out.
Yeah,
Watching the bills.
Yeah, I haven't had too many. I mean, obviously, you get those kind of all the time, and but I haven't had to bust out the leaf blower yet.
Don't worry, Dushan, it's coming. Keep
It's
it on
coming.
charge.
I remember we had one. So there's in the beaches. It used to be where the racetrack is.
Yep.
And we had one of those on the lake shore. That's like right by the Olympic pool.
Yeah, the painted houses, right?
Yeah.
On the bottom of Woodbine.
So basically, that open house that day became everyone's beach day. Everyone going to the beach, coming into the open house. I
Yeah.
remember one lady come right in. She's like, "Where's the bathroom in this house?" And then like scurried quickly to. So it was clear like they were down at the beach, needed a bathroom.
Awful.
The house was open.
So finally, I want to give you guys, like, let's give our clients who are maybe out there in some stage of shopping advice for going into open houses, because I think this is a really important topic. So you mentioned that the serious buyers are going to be quiet at first. To be clear, a well-prepared buyer that is under buyer representation with an agent should be properly coached by their agent about what to say and what not to say in an open house. Because to be clear, Scott, you've got a client. I've got an open house. You know, your client is coming into my open house. You're probably going to call me in advance and say, "Hey, I've got, you know, clients, you know, John and Anna, they're going to pop into your open house. I'll follow up with them later." But when I'm talking to my buyer client, I am counseling them to say what to say and not to share with them. Because if I am representing a seller and I know that there are serious buyers coming through this house, which may show up on offer day or may show up with an offer, I'm asking some questions for them that I'm going to try to feel out in an ethical way, but that I can use to my advantage later on. So I'm going to ask questions like, "Do you know the neighborhood well? Do you guys already live around here?" And that's where a buyer will say to me, "Yeah, actually, we own a house like 3 streets over. We're trying to sell it, but we haven't had a lot of luck. All the offers have been crummy." Like, buyers, if not properly coached, will share information that they shouldn't share during an open house. And I think that's, you know, one example of some of the stuff that you should not share. So if you're a buyer and you're going to an open house, what should you not be sharing with the agent on the other side? Dushan, you have thoughts on that?
Off the top of my head, your max budget.
Max budget. Yeah. This is listed for 800, but we can afford up to $1 million. So yeah, we're good. Yeah. Max budget. Don't share.
Yeah. Typically, probably people are not going to cough that up.
You'd be
right off
surprised.
the bat, but
Yeah.
there is stuff like that.
But they will share. Yeah, actually, we offered all. I might say something like, "Oh, did you see the one around the corner that just sold for $950?" And they'll often say, "Yeah, I had an offer in on that." What they've told me is that they probably had at least $950 to spend if they were in on a more expensive house. So inadvertent ways that you can overshare with a listing agent sitting in open house that are not positive for maintaining your ability to negotiate against that agent or those clients later. Would you have what else should you not share, Scott?
I mean, I just think it's a general rule. I'd tell them to say very little. Say, be respectful. Just say, "Just so you know, I have an agent. I'm happy to sign in, but you know, I don't need you to follow up with me or anything like that." And really just kind of keep it close to the vest. But I've also had the reverse though, where I've had buyers that are quite savvy and the agent doing the open house is not the greatest, and that they ask a few questions and it can work the other way too, where the agent will say too much or like let the cat out of the bag about
like it's listed for 900, but bring me 8, and they'd be really happy with it.
I think I've had that happen far more often than having a buyer like where they just talk to the agent a bit and they get some intel.
Well, there you go. Open houses, the good, the bad, the ugly.
And yet another reason why, if a seller doesn't want one, that
I love it. That's great. Well, if you are a seller thinking about putting your house on the market, it is definitely a conversation that you want to have with your skilled real estate professional. Open houses, no open houses. And if you're a buyer out there in this market, definitely have a conversation with your buyer representation, with the agent that has you under buyer representation to understand what you should and shouldn't be sharing. I think that's great information. Well, thanks guys for sharing all of your knowledge and stories with us today. It's all of the fun stuff that goes on in the back end that doesn't make the highlight reel, but part of the job that we, part of the profession that we choose to be in. So thank you guys for watching today. To all of our listeners and our watchers at home, I'd love to hear about your open house horror stories. Have you walked in to a porn set unwittingly? Would love to hear all about it. So, but thank you guys for watching. We're going to be launching our next series of episodes in a couple of weeks, and we hope that you'll check it out. But in the meantime, if there's anything we can do to be of service to you or someone you know with anything real estate related, it would be an honor. Please reach out. So thanks again for watching, guys. We'll catch up with you again soon.